All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak and Citizen TV. This is the chance for the young people in the house to speak about the political issues. They form more than 70% of the population anyway, so their decision counts. That's the reason why we're calling this Social Square Youth and Politics, talking about the escalating tension, the BBI, the Hustler versus Dynasty narrative, and the political alliances. Can they see through what the politicians are doing, or are they taking it on a personal level? Because we've seen a lot of intolerance happening lately. NCIC is warning that stern action will be taken against all the politicians who incite the youth. Let me introduce my guest real quick. Billian Ojiwa, community activist, is with us in studio. Thank you so much for making time. Ahmed Kadar, a blogger, is also with us here in studio. And Hadija Abukula, UDA youth leader, is also with us in studio. Nice Mudoni Mburu, a lawyer and aspiring politician, is joining us on Skype from Mombasa. Thank you so much for making time. And Nice, I'll start with you on this because we saw there was a bit of violence in Githurai area. That's where you come from. How come this is escalating now, and how come the youth cannot see through this and stay calm?
Thank you very much, Trevor. A very good morning. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Indeed, it's a very sad affair, whatever we are experiencing in the country right now, that we are seeing members of the youth being used by politicians to commit such heinous and being involved in doing such things. Indeed, everybody has a right to come out and campaign and talk to the people. It is important that people get to know even what the contents of the BBI is. But it is quite unfortunate that you feel that there are those people who are not welcome in a particular area or place, whereas we are all Kenyans and we should be allowed to, that you can go anywhere, that Amodhoni can be allowed to campaign in Mombasa, that someone from Kisumu can be allowed to campaign in another area in the country. So what we are experiencing, as even myself as a constituent in Ruiru constituency, is rather unfortunate that we are not seeing the youth being used for the right purpose. Rather, they are being influenced to disrupt meetings by people who do not want our country to move forward. So I believe that everybody should be given an opportunity to talk. Every camp, whatever, regardless of the camp that a person is, should be allowed to come and address the members of the public. Thank you very much.
Billian, is this an issue of just incitement by politicians, or is it a psyche that the youth sort of have? Because we saw this in Githurai, then there was counter action now in Bama, where the DP was.
Yeah, Trevor, thank you so much for having me. It's quite unfortunate that it's as early as now that we are seeing such things. On the flip side of what Don is talking about, I think young people are also not working. People have so much time in their hands, but we should not use that as an excuse to, to be involved in such activities. So for me, I think we should try and have the tolerance, the political tolerance, and supporting and welcoming everybody that comes on board. But we should also, it's sad when you see, it was a weekday, seeing young people, or as many people as those, coming to rallies. It means there's something wrong somewhere, and especially on the side of young people. So as a country, holistically, we should look at, what is the problem? Why are we finding ourselves in this space? So that would be my take.
I mean, Gadar, how do we sort this out?
First of all, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And we need to see things differently. We talk about youth disrupting rallies. Who are these youth? When you use the word youth, you are saying everyone, including us here, who are goons who are in rallies. These are specific people who are hired by politicians to either cause disruption in their rallies, or these are criminals in my own, if you ask me, and I think they should be dealt with as it is. So when you generalize the entire Kenyan youth and put them into discussion simply by the mistake of few goons who are hired politicians, I think it's a disservice to the respectable Kenyan youth. Secondly, majority of Kenyans youth are idle because of unemployment and all these things. And those are things that need to be sorted. Unfortunately, we're discussing BBI and other nonsense that has no impact in the Kenyan youth life. And thirdly, this trend of hiring young people or youth, for that matter, to go make noise, chant, and carry banners is it's a dangerous trend.
Yeah.
And if we don't stop it, it's a cause for mayhem, and it's a primitive, and that's not the kind of politics we should be playing in the 21st century, and more so in 2021.
All right, Adija.
Thank you for hosting me. For me, I think first we will blame it on our leaders, because if our leaders can go to the stages and start attacking each other, then I think that they're not leading by example. And this trickles down to these youths, because for these youths to go there and attack these leaders, it means they were paid for. And like my fellow youths have said, the rate of unemployment is very high. So for someone to be paid 200 or 100 to go and attack each other at the expense of their own life, I mean, it's not fair. And if this has started right now, it means by the time we're getting to 2022 elections, we will have lost a lot of lives and many people will have been injured. Yeah. So our leaders need to take precaution and control their people. It's a democratic right for each and every Kenyan to contest wherever they want and to go and campaign whichever part of the country without being attacked.
And Muthoni, I know you come from that region, and I know you interact with those young people there. What are they saying are going to be the solutions going forward? How do we ensure this stops once and for all? We could blame the leaders, we could blame the young people, we could say they're hired goons, but how do we ensure that this stops?
So I feel like what would make what we are experiencing as a country stop is basically by not allowing people to play games with the youth. It is actually very important for people to know for themselves and make decisions for themselves that what is this camp offering? What is this other camp offering? We might be in different political divides. However, it is important for the number one solution for us not to experience this and having our members of the youth, either from the universities or the ones we call jeshi, wale watu wa mtaa wenye people are believing that people that come from the not necessarily the universities as the youth, because we have different youths in different areas. What would be the number one solution first is for leaders not to be used to incite people. Like we know very well what happened in Githurai area, because I was part of that meeting. Was it not for the fact that I came for a training in Mombasa? The first instance were called out to attend that rally. We were told that indeed there have been plans which have been laid forward. That's why even there had to be a diversion whereby people had to come in through Hawashikani, because we knew there had been some mobilization of some goons hired to do this act. And it is unfortunate that members of the youth are being used. So the number one step, the backstop at the leaders for not using our youth to commit such heinous acts. Because if our leaders do this, that as my dear sister said, it will propagate to even worse actions come 2022. And we do not want to see our country in an unstable place, because we know the cost of having an economic instability in our country. And it's the same thing why we have the BBI, because now with the BBI, we will not be able to experience what happened in 2007, because now we will be able to have a country where we cannot have such things. So the first step would be for the leaders not to incite people, which is unfortunate. And then the second step comes into the youth, not allowing ourselves to be used by these same leaders to do such things. Because we've been able to see some leaders shifting camps. So it's very bad for if politics was such a serious issue. That people cannot be able to work together. Then we would not have seen people, even in my constituency, we have a member who keeps on shifting camps. So we should not have seen such things if indeed, let's say someone like Baba or number two was such a bad person. So as youth of this country, it is time for us to take active steps, and for us not to be neutral. Because even as we were celebrating Martin Luther King Day the other day, and in celebrating Martin Luther, one of the things that Martin Luther stood with is that he said people should not be neutral during these times. So this is the time for the youth to come out and take an active position and an active stand and defend and fight for what they really want. So one is for the leaders not to incite the members of the youth, and two, for us as youth not to allow to be used by these leaders.
Kadar, I see you want to jump in on this.
My sister Mudhoni talks of youth being used, telling politicians not to incite. That's a cheap talk, if you ask me. We have to talk reality in this country. Youth are being misused because they are at a disadvantaged position. So the question should be, how should that be addressed? Secondly, youth themselves should not allow to be used. Just because you are poor doesn't mean that you can pay a little bit and you go make noise and that kind of stuff. Thirdly, in this country we have laws. There's an institution called NCIC that deals with hate speech, that deals with political violence and those kind of things. Unfortunately, NCIC has become a toothless dog, sort of, and a body that is used purposely to harass individuals here and there who are seen to be anti-establishment, that kind of things, when they make noise.
Isn't that in itself the narrative why it's very difficult for them to operate? Because if somebody does hate speech and then there's that argument that you bring up, that they're being used to deal with such a group, they're being used to deal with such a group,
no,
why don't you allow them to
It is
deal
how
with
it
an
is seen.
individual?
You see, sometimes, my friend, how you do things makes a difference. If you only come out when certain politicians make some statement and you're not seen for the entire year, you'll always be seen. Public perception is very key. So how we address that so for me, I will just say NCIC should wake up from the slumber and play its role. Thirdly, like I've said, it's very dangerous trend to hire goons to send to people to heckle and all that kind of things. And I think that's a very primitive politics that we should that we should be moving away from. And I think we should also be in a position to have our political debates in an environment that of respect. I don't have to agree with you every time. We can disagree in a very civil way, and we move on. This country is bigger than all of us, and the president always keeps of talking about inclusivity, uniting the country. Those are the kind of conversations we should be advancing, not the culture of political hooliganism.
Billion, are we simply being escapist by blaming the politicians and all that? Don't the youth have a mind of their own? When someone gives you money and you're going to risk your own life, then you blame the leader. Are we having just an escapist argument here?
I think it is, but also, it's time for them to do that, because we're at a place, we're at a position that we're supposed to be scrutinizing the BBI, and they thrive on, just making the environment hostile for anybody to scrutinize the document. So I think all the camps, this is intentional, so that as young people, we are not thinking about what is contained in the government, on the document, which is more important for us, and just going out, heckling, throwing stones. So it's a bad precedence, as we can see, but as young people, we should have a meeting with ourselves and just think, is this a direction that we want to take as young people? What foundation are we laying for our younger brothers and sisters?
Adija, you're a UDA youth leader. What do you tell them when you speak to them? Because there's this issue we are trying to find out. What is the solution? What do they say is the solution? Why do they allow the politicians to use them, and how can that be stopped?
I mean, from my side, I think the best way is to try and keep these youths busy. And that's why we have the wheelbarrow and everything narrative, to help create employments to these kinds of youths who are idle. Because right now, as we speak, when people are idle, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. And that is why people can easily be used, because we have corona, which has affected so many people. Many people have lost their jobs. We might want not to say it's politician. Yes, the youths have their mind. But again, we have to just talk the facts. That if now people, wherever they are jobless. If you give me that 100 will make me survive in a day, or 200. Then you want me to go and do something like go make noise or something. They forget that it's at the expense of their lives, yes. They will come and regret it later, but again, it will have happened. For me, I blame it on politicians again. As much as we might want to escape it, for us, as much as we might want to bring the solution and to create jobs for the youth, for them to get engaged so that they don't find themselves being used in this political era. But any other time, you might find youths have been used, not even now, even in other violences and other by elections that have happened previously.
Yeah.
We have seen youths being used. And I think it's high time for the youths in this country to take a step and now to just know that they're important in this country and to fight for their spaces politically and to protect themselves. No one will protect them if they can't fight for themselves.
I like the fact that you say that that's the reason why you guys have brought in the wheelbarrow thing. Even that has now been turned into a hustler versus dynasty conversation. Is that what it is meant to achieve? And why in the 21st century do you then bring in wheelbarrows? Why not anything else? It's a technically savvy area. Why don't we have different places? Say go to different wards and say you're going to establish a free internet connected area where you're going to train the youth on how to make money online. Why are you giving them wheelbarrows?
Now, okay, let me say this. The wheelbarrow is just part of the narrative that is being used. But when you look at what has been done, we've given out, the Asla Nation has been able to give out so many things in terms of machines, car wash machines, and those things. Now, in an area where, like, I come from, like Kibera, you will get some people, maybe they have never gone to school. No, if you want even to bring out the computer, the online thing, these people probably they do not have experience in this sector. They have not been trained. And now you find there are these jobs that they can easily do when they get some of the items that they can actually access, like wheelbarrow, mkokoteni, washing machine, because they know they can easily, you can easily give them, then they can work with it to earn money. But this other side, you might find that there are people who cannot be trained on the online. So you need to consider both sides.
So what do you say to the people who say that this is divisive? It is creating a rift, the hustler versus dynasty.
I don't think it's creating the rift. It's just that now the dynasty, probably, they do not want the narrative. They don't like the narrative that is being used. I mean, that is for helping the common one-90. That's going down to the person who really needs that item to use it. For them, they will not understand. I mean, they are dynasty. For them, their kind of lifestyle is up there. For us,
that therein lies the problem, because then, yes, Kadar.
Yeah, right now, we're in a pandemic moment. I think probably we're the only country that is talking of a constitutional moment when the world is addressing pandemic issues. And it's so unfortunate that we have COVID rules in this country that specify what's to be done and what's not to be done. There are specific times and there are protocols to be followed. You have seen that when politicians go for rallies, thousands of people meet contrary to the COVID rules. And yet they keep talking about, pandemic, addressing all that. Now, the question is this: should we be in a political moment or should we be in a recovery moment? Because the pandemic has ravaged the whole world. Each country is talking about COVID vaccines, how to deliver these vaccines, how to bring back the economy, how to revive jobs, all this, that. But unfortunately, when you see our leaders on the screen, they are talking about BBI, they are talking about 2022. No one is talking about economic recovery. Are we going to eat stones?
Can't all these things happen concurrently? Because you know the vaccines are coming in February. You know Google just gave us 1.1 billion shillings for recovery. So it's not true that none of these conversations are being had.
You know, when you're talking about recovery, you must also follow the protocols that are laid down to prevent the spread of COVID-19. There are rules, as I said. Now, look at the rallies yesterday or the day before in Githurai and all that. Are they meeting the COVID-19 protocol? Are they meeting the guidelines that was set? What happens when people go to such rallies? Again, the use of youth, let me come. You know, the youth coming out or being misused in a bad way is not something that's common only to us. If you're following the global space, recently we had the Capitol Hill incident where, young people walked into Capitol Hill, the Capitol Hill insurrection, as they call it, and we all know what happened. And majority of the young people who disrupted that were young people who were misadvised, who were given the wrong notion of things. The same thing is happening. For me, what I will say is this: let young people hustle. Let young people do what they are supposed to do. She talked about the wheelbarrow. The wheelbarrow economics is not bad. That's the kind of conversation it has rattled the political class in so many ways. Because when we talk about the wheelbarrow, it's not necessarily the dynasty versus hustlers. Sometimes people misinterpret things. I'm not here to speak for the hustler nation, but it's a concept I like, the way it's being brought, And I think many Kenyans have fallen in love with it the way it's being presented, because it speaks to them, it speaks to their aspiration, it speaks, their issues directly to them.
And 60 years after independence, they discover this now.
You see, it doesn't matter. And the thing is, I can be online, I can be digital tech, but I may need a wheelbarrow to push when I'm building my pavement. You know what I'm talking about? The guy who is building the pavement needs a wheelbarrow. The guy who is in at that main market, the vegetable market, will need a mkokoteni. Okay. You see, we all have different needs. We all have, me and you, and maybe probably the guy on the street may not use the same thing. Okay. So when we say about the wheelbarrow and all that, I think the wheelbarrow, as Dr. David indeed puts it, it has come the right moment. It's a discussion we need. You see, the problem we have is this. Sometimes I see people, especially senior politicians, on a podium, dismissing something like the wheelbarrow. Yet they are not offering an alternative. What alternative are you bringing to the table when you dismiss the wheelbarrow? Right. That should be the question.
Billion?
I think for me, I don't subscribe to any, the Hustler Nation and the dynasties, though they exist. But I think the question we should ask ourselves, why are young people subscribing now to either the Hustler Nation more? Why are they? It's because as a country, there's a gap that has been left that needs to be addressed by the government. So we should not just holistically just say, it's hustlers versus the dynasties. The conversation that the government should have in their offices is how should we address this issue? Why are we having more young people running to take wheelbarrows? Yeah. Why are we having even graduates running to take car wash machines? It's because there's a gap that has been left there. So as young people, we've gotten to a space or a place where we are so desperate that we can take anything, that we can subscribe to anything. And if you look at even the data, I saw some of the young people from Adare going to take the wheelbarrows and the mkokotenis. They requested the mkokotenis because even with their papers, they're not able to access the decent jobs that they desire. So it should be a wake-up call to our government to address these issues, lest we find ourselves in a way in a space where it will be dynasties versus the hustler.
Mudoni, are we burying our heads in the sand by claiming that the hustler versus dynasty conversation is causing a rift, and yet we know so well that there is already a gap between the rich and the poor? The youth are struggling for jobs, and the rich are getting even more rich.
Personally, I feel like the whole rift that the government is, not the government, but everybody is trying to place there, that there's dynasty and there's the hustler nation, is just a notion or a concept to try and win both sides, whereby this side is trying to say there's hustler, there's dynasty, and there's all. And the issue is people on the ground should be able to know. Like we've always been told, someone who has a Pro Box will look at someone who has a Range Rover and say that is a dynasty person. Whereas someone who has a motorbike will look at someone else and who has a Pro Box and think that person is richer than themselves. So for the youth, what we should take home, and for most of the people, if you have your hustle and you have whatever you are already focusing on, you should look at whatever you have instead of looking at the other person who is ahead of you and trying to call them dynasty. Let me believe in the event where the deputy president gets, if at all he does, gets the position to serve as the president, he'll be looked at as the next dynasty. Yes, he himself, I consider him to be a dynasty since he's served. He's been in a position of influence and affluence. So he's not someone who is neutral and can come out and claim there are people who are above him, or there are people should be able to look at the real issues. Let somebody be ranked or be looked at with merit. Let's do meritocracy, where a person can be judged with what they are putting out. Because let me give you an example with the United States. Someone like Trump, we can call him dynasty since he's a tycoon, he's a very wealthy man. But he is not a dynasty. He's someone who has worked to get into what he wants. So I feel I would really want to rubbish the whole conversation of dynasty and the hustler and all those things, because I believe someone should be given an opportunity to show their real worth and what they can be able to bring in the table, instead of looking at dynasty and hustler conversation.
Yeah.
It is also my call to the youth to come out and fight for these spaces. I believe in 2022 will be a year of difference, since I've seen so many youth coming on board and claiming that they want these seats. This will not be won by the fact that people are looking at dynasty and all this, but people will be based on the character of a person, the character of a leader, but not on the stories of dynasty and all that. And also, I would like to ask my sister, Hadija. I have seen in her title, she's a youth league leader, UDA youth league leader. And I hope Hadija is not using that name to call people on a light note, claiming that there's a youth league, which I have not seen in UDA. That is just on a light note. But honestly, on a serious note, UDA should stop the whole narrative of hustler. Because at the end of the day, merit should be the basis in which we appoint leaders, and leaders are reflected in this country.
Okay.
Thank you,
If
sir.
I were to chip in,
Yes.
what Mudhani has said, I'm neither here for dynasty or hustler. But my understanding, I'm a digital person. You know, we follow all these conversations. My understanding of digital, the hustler by dynasty differs from her concept. You know, the hustler by dynasty narrative is the issue of, especially this, is the issue of analyzing. You know, we are used to top-bottom politics. What the hustler narrative tries to define is bottom-top approach. You know, this, talking to the person at the ground level, initiating decisions from there, and listening to their needs and concerns, than it being from top-down approach. So Mudhani's understanding of dynasty versus hustler, for me, I will consider it as the kind of propaganda we see it on social media, because that's what she has fallen for, in my understanding. Because if you follow the real conversation of dynasty versus hustler, I don't think it has anything to do with rich fighting poor or poor fighting the rich, as it's being made to look like. But it's rather discussing the common mwananchi issues, what affect the man and the woman in Kibera, the man and the woman in Mathare, what may not necessarily be an issue for the guy, maybe like you who comes from Lavington. I don't know whether you know but the thing is,
no, sir, my dynasty now.
So I think I will disagree with Mudhani on the definition of the hustler versus narrative politics.
Okay.
You see, in politics, you must come up with something to drive your agenda. You can't just write an empty narrative. And that's why the hustler narrative has really imeshika, to use the Nairobi language. Imeshika sana. And I think people who are not comfortable with the the hustler narrative, if you ask me, is changing the way politics has been peddled around. And that's why so many people are rattled by it. Yes.
Adija, you are in the UDA. What is it people who are changing what this was meant to be, and what is it really meant to be? The hustler versus dynasty conversation.
I mean, it has not been changed, and I think it's how people get it. People are getting it differently. When we speak of the hustler nations, and before even I answer that question, allow me to answer my sister. She said about the youth league. I belong to the youth league in UDA. And for any political party, of course, they have to have youth positions. And in politics, you just have to fight for your space. So probably I'm fighting for one that is coming up. Now, back to your question. I think on the hustler nation or the hustler narrative is just trying to relate to the common mwananchi issues that we're facing as a country. We can't run away from that. And I think the dynasty thing and everything has come about with this issue of BBI, where now we are saying about creating position to a certain class of people. And who are certain class of people? It's actually the dynasty wants to occupy the big 5 seats of the prime minister, deputy prime minister, and I think that's where the problem started. When now we come back, we are saying now, is there inclusivity of this common mwananchi? And that's why you could hear every now and then, even the deputy president is not opposing the BBI. He has said, let's have a conversation. Let's include the Mamamboga. Let's include the boda guys. I think we just need to look at this in a bigger picture, that we don't have to do a divisive politics when, if you're talking about handshake, it's about bringing peace and harmony. Surely, are we seeing that being practical? Because whatever we were seeing before, we are seeing even politicians now, like whatever they are talking to themselves or even in podiums, it's like they're attacking each other. Is that really peace? Is that really handshake? You know, we will be lying to ourselves if we are saying handshake was about peace and harmony, and yet we are seeing even now the youths fighting back in terms of fighting each other in those say we want BPI, hatutaki BPI, you understand?
Yeah.
Because probably when the hustler goes this way, they watachaki BPI. When they come this way, tunataka. You understand? There's that wrangle in between. So for me, what I will say is that the hustler narrative is to relate to a common mwananchi. And we are not saying that the dynasty are not part of the common mwananchi, they are. But we just need to have an honest conversation about each and everything that you're doing in this country.
Yeah.
And we need to just be, to ensure inclusivity of each and every Kenyan in terms of their opinions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Billion, are we simply just misunderstanding this narrative and creating a mountain out of a molehill?
I think it's the nature of politics.
Yeah.
In politics, there's what we call, historically, there's what we call divide and rule, and you look at your constituent. So what happened, they might not even be representing the issues that are affecting the common mwananchi, the hustlers. But you have to, target a certain constituent and look at a narrative that they would subscribe to more. So there's a misrepresentation, there's a misinterpretation, or I think so. Yeah. But as politicians this is what they're good at. They divide and rule, and you look at which chunk has the most. That is why the dynasties are fighting back, because they are realizing that the bigger constituent is not on their side, so they have to see how they can neutralize the conversation before it gets it peaks in all corners of the country. So the divide and rule has been there. The people we are talking about, the people who are preaching the hustler nation, some of them own the helicopters, the big houses, and all that. So they necessarily not relate to what we are doing, what we are saying, or what we go through, or my people in Mathare go through. But they feel there's a constituent there. Let's tap into that constituent. What do they want to hear? What are they relating to? Yeah. And we are seeing young people, most of them don't even care how those politicians come to those rallies. But as long as they are told, dynasties, hustler nation, and they subscribe to it. Yeah,
and yet you can see very well that even the way they are there, the entourage that they have, the vehicles that they have nothing to do with what you're doing standing there. Yeah. And Kadar, this is what I'm talking about as well. I mean, the moral standing of the people to talk about hustler versus dynasty. I mean, I would understand if us, the hustlers here, would talk about it, as opposed to the actual guys who are driving big cars, have big houses, have property in this country.
You see, in this world, there is no day everyone will be equal. That's the bottom line. Yeah. We will never be equal. There will be one who will be driving a Range Rover. There will be one who will have a mkokoteni. There will be one who will be taking a chopper. There will be one who will be having a Pro Box.
But between them, we should be
now
talking
the question
about
is, the question
Range Rover
is
guy or the
that. So the question is, the Range Rover guy, it doesn't mean he should not have the right to come to the rally with his Range Rover. If you can have a Range Rover and come to a rally and address people with mkokoteni, I don't see any problem with that, because God favors differently. Now the other thing is, it's the reality. It is the reality.
The issue here, Kadar, is how do you then claim that you're one of them if you first came in a Range Rover?
You see, my friend here spoke about one key important thing. He said the dynasties have realized that the huge chunk of the people are not on their side. Why? You need to ask that question. Because in my understanding is, someone is addressing what the huge chunk of the people need to hear. And politics is all about the art, of persuasion. I have to come and talk to you nicely. So if I'm speaking your language, you will definitely fall for me. And that is what is happening right now. On the other thing, we're talking about BBI and youth in relation. And I think that's what we're also supposed to be talking about.
Yeah, in the next session.
Now, when we talk about youth, I watched the Githurai rally. And I was so shocked to see what some politicians are talking about in the name of BBI. Someone's talking about BBI coming to give young people money without interest in the name of Youth Development Fund. And the question I asked myself while I was watching that, is in the Youth Development Fund already in existence? What is it doing for the young people? You know, my friend Obicha, it has come to a moment when we need to ask real questions, when we need to ask, you know, things that need to be asked. The government is working hard, especially the government of the President Uhuru Kenyatta is working hard to deliver and even serve young people. But there have been obstacles here and there, and especially the people who have been given the mandate to run. As you have heard the President talking about, you know, 2 billion being lost every day. If you multiply that by month, we have 60 billion. There have been reactions from the clergy, from the imams, from the common wananchi, you know. So, still I'm asking the same question. Why are we in a hurry to talk about constitutional change and all this when we consult our economy, when we consult about our COVID issues?
Okay.
Is it important right now? That is the question.
We'll come to the BBI issue in a bit. You wanted to jump in, Adija?
Yeah, about the Range Rover, you said should we be discussing about the Range Rover or these people who are hustlers from here? I think my question will be, it's not about the car that you drive or the house that you have. Is it that as a leader, are you in an able position to help the needy? Are you in an able position to provide jobs to these people who are down here? The Hustler Nation are trying their best to provide a job to those people. The dynasty should also give us what they are doing to those other people who are unemployed as a solution to capture unemployment. Then I think that is the conversation. It's not about the car that you have, it's not about the house that you own, but at your position as a leader, what can you do? Can you help the needy? Can you provide those jobs to the young people? Then I think that's the conversation we need to have.
Okay, Billion, you want to jump
just
in
a
before bringing
clarification, that they should also understand that, you know, not all the youth that are given mkokoteni are going to use those mkokotenis. We've seen scenarios where politicians give the tanks, and then the next day the youth sell the tanks. So they should not say they're creating solutions. It is a plastic solution. And as leaders, if we really want to help young people in this country, let's get down and have a conversation with them and hear the issues that are affecting them. So they should never be celebrating that, you know, when they're giving mkokoteni, they're creating jobs. Some of them are selling those mkokotenis.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mudhoni, let me bring you back into this before I take a quick break. What is wrong with helping people who are in need at that particular moment? If a young person, all they need is a mkokoteni to work for that day, what is wrong if they're given that mkokoteni?
Trevor, I think it is important and worth noting that indeed the government has been doing all these things. It's just that government is not given credit for doing and enabling and empowering the youth. I would really see it as a big joke if you would give a university student who just finished school a wheelbarrow instead of setting up ICT hubs, which you have seen my very good friend Bwana C.S. Mushero has been doing through the able hand of the government. It has been doing this project, yet no credit is being given to government. How many ICT hubs have been created? As you even posed a question earlier, I remember, you asked, why don't they enable youth to use ICT to even make money online? Because those are the things that are happening. Yet, if someone, they've made this whole thing about giving wheelbarrows and kokotenis, what about these people who have special gifts that can be tapped into what is happening in the current world? People are going digital. Why don't they create such hubs whereby someone can come out, if they're coming from school, they come into that ICT center, maybe they are trained even in using the computer. Even JSP are very critical and they can learn how to use the computers. So what is the issue with as you pose the question, what is the issue with enabling such youth? The issue that we have is for them not to act as if the government has not been doing this just because we don't go, not myself, just because the government does not go every now and then saying what they are doing as an institution. And that's why we are telling our people and the electorate is that they give the opportunity to government to state what they have been doing all along. Because we've seen so many projects to empower the youth through the National Youth Council. We've seen so many projects and many more are underway. So it is important for us to also not forget what is being done by government and just see people who are doing sideshows or want to show the people that they are doing so many things by providing what is not necessarily needed by the people.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, I would like to take note that my dear sister Hadija, she's confirmed. We have said youth, we are not going to be enemies of our own. She's confirmed that indeed there's nothing like UDA Youth League. And that is something that the Chama should work hard for, because we are talking about creating opportunities for the youth. The same case with our side. There should be spaces provided for the youth, clear, articulate, and spaces to enable youth to take part and to have an active voice. We have a meeting coming up in Sagana on Saturday, where the president is coming to meet the Mount Kenya people. What are the steps to make sure that the key stakeholders, the key people have been called in to have a dialogue? Like the same way you, Citizen News, you're giving us a good opportunity to reach out to members of the
just
public.
To disrupt can Mudhoni say, tell us.
Doing to accommodate and to make the youth feel that they are accepted. And also one last thing, my brother Abu Bakar, he has also stated, I did take notice that he said he's a political analyst. However, I'm finding him to be inclined in one position, and I would join him. If you are a political analyst, you should be able to speak objectively on different issues, not just being inclined in one area, not unless I get your title. Thank you very much.
Okay, if I was to respond,
all of us.
on this side. But I want to ask her one thing. I want to ask her one thing. She talks of saying, why can the people who are providing wheelbarrows or Boketen, we are not here to speak for them. But she asked a question, a very important question. She said, why can they provide digital blah blah blah? You see, these are competition. There's a competition going on between two sides of political divide. If this side had decided to bring wheelbarrow and Bukoteni and what have you, why can the other side go high tech and say this is what we have instead of criticizing what someone else is giving? That is what I expect from her as a lawyer, and give a solution on the way forward. Secondly, she spoke about Mount Kenya and the upcoming Sagana meeting. Very important point.
We will talk about that right after the break. So hold on the Mount Kenya issue. That's where we're going.
I just want to protect my sister. I've been once a member of a political party and a youth wing of a political party. She should just take note that for a political party to be registered, it has to have a youth wing, and sometimes the internal arrangements for her positions. So she should not just come and bash our sister.
And she talked about
saying that, there is no UD youth wing, UDA youth wing. All political parties must have a youth wing, and sometimes they might not have elections, but there are internal arrangements to have the position. So, she might be a real UDA youth league member or leader. So,
in her own sense. And she spoke about the National Youth Council. I want to ask Mudhoni, what has the National Youth Council done for the Kenyan youth since it was formed? Can they come out? I don't know whether she's a member or whether she has ever been a member, but that's, if he was a dad, if the National Youth Council was a dad, we'll call him a deadbeat.
Okay, Hadija, I'll give you a chance to respond before I take a break.
I think just like my brother said, you don't, I mean, all the political
Parties.
Parties, they need to have a youth wing. They can't work without youth wing. And it doesn't have to be like there has to be an election or something. I belong to the youth league, but of course the elections will come there, or they might not be there, and you can hold your position still.
Okay, all right. I have to take a quick break here. I see a lot of your feedback coming through. We'll read some of them. When we come back from the break, we're talking about two things actually: BBI and the upcoming Sagana meeting. It's coming up tomorrow. What should the president prioritize? He has said and told them that he still can roar like a lion. And there's a letter that the 41 legislators wrote to him. We'll talk about that in just a bit.